Good afternoon, good morning, the weather outside is frightful. Woo! Girly pops. Hello, welcome back to The Weekly Wigs with me, your host Megan Wigz. We're rocking up to week 7 in this season 1 of The Weekly Wigs podcast. Weekly Wigs at Weekly Wigs. Thank you very much for joining me on this potential Wednesday. You might be watching it on the launch day. You might be watching it on any random day. But I appreciate you very much for tuning in and joining me this afternoon. I am recording this on a Sunday at about 12 p.m. And we just had a lovely little weekend with my parents who came up to visit me in Manchester. It was a bit bloody nippy. The winter be wintering. But I've just had a really nice little cute weekend. There's been a lot going on this week. I feel like I have been all over the shop the last 2 weeks. It's just that time of year, isn't it, where everything is pure pandemonium and chaos. Christmas dues, the people visited, festivities, there's Christmas markets, and it's like when you're transitioning into the dark winter days as well, and the freezing cold and the ice, and your rhythm, your body clock, everything just goes out of sync. Makes you feel a bit all over the shop, doesn't it? And that's certainly how I've been feeling the last few weeks with like positives and negatives, It's been like good chaos, if that makes sense. But also having started a new job recently, it can be a bit overwhelming for the brain. I'm not gonna lie, I have been a little bit drained from starting a new job, and it's like the mad thing is that I've just obviously completely forgotten what this feels like. My last job I worked in for like 7 years, and I was pretty much fully remote for the entire time. So having adapted to a brand new environment, a brand new company, brand new people, slowly merging myself back into an office world, I'm not gonna lie, the brain has been braining. And I think I've honestly probably found it to be quite a shock, which I knew was going to happen anyway. Like, it was obviously going to feel like a bit overwhelming. But I guess when you tie that in with just the winter changes and all the busyness of the festive period, oh, girly, she's been a bit bloody tired. And I've been so delayed on my B12 injections, which I get sorry, this is so like boring, just boring health things, but I get like B12 injections and that makes you get energy and feel much better. And because I've been delayed on that, woo, girl has been struggling. But alas, we're back. We're churning out the content. I loved my episode last week. Please go listen to it if you haven't already. I had my first guest on the pod, which is my dear friend, Miss Amber Adele. And we had just a great old time. It was so fun recording the pod. She came over mine for the weekend and we were hanging out and doing stuff anyway. But it felt like a perfect opportunity to just, let's get a little podcast episode in, because I'd been mentioning for a while that I'd probably get some guests on. So it was just so nice and refreshing to finally have someone else to talk to. Because, don't get me wrong, it's me and you. It's me, you, and the camera and the mic and the dream. And I love my little chats and my podcast episodes. But sometimes it is refreshing to have like a new energy in your episodes and someone you can bounce off of. It gives you like a different flavour of conversation, which is nice to have a variety, I feel. So I was really pleased with that. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. Please go show it some love, run up the likes and the shares and the subscribes and all the rest of it. The one thing I really need to ask a massive favour and a big call out to all you listeners right now is I'm a small-time creator, okay? We're really new to the podcast game, and it's something that I really want to continue to pursue, and I enjoy doing it, and I want to give you the goods. I want to keep the chat going, keep the yap going in Yap City. But this mayor of Yap City, Megan Wigz, really does require your support. And that support often comes in the form of sharing on social media, subscribing to the channel. The more visibility and the more we can push it out there, the more I can do with this show. And it is hard, it is really hard as a small-time creator, which is something that me and Amber chatted about on last week's episode, being creative girlies and pushing content online and TikTok and all the rest of it. But to be perfectly honest, you're really reliable on like a loyal audience and loyal people who will tune in, who will share the content. And I guess the issue to a degree, which is what we chatted about, is that people's consumerism and the way everyone takes in content can be quite passive. We've all got short attention spans and everyone just loves a good scroll these days. So it can be a little challenging when you're trying to create a good following, a community, and people often don't pay attention and don't take action when it comes to sharing and liking and that kind of stuff. So I'm really grateful to anyone that has been doing that so far, but I'd really just love to push out a little call to action. If you could be so kind to please make sure you're following any of my social channels, share the episodes on your Insta story whenever you see me uploading clips, because every little helps. So that's just my little admin out of the way, so thank you very kindly for listening to that. But yeah, so we had Miss Amber on the pod. We've just been busy. She's been editing. We've been doing full-time job, obviously, at the same time, trying to learn a new job right now. I've had family visits. We've just had a lot going on. I feel like I am so behind on my current pop culture and my music. There's a lot I want to delve into, but I feel like I have no major insight right now because I've been so behind. I know that Miss Tate McRae, my fave Miss Tate McRae, she released her deluxe album with some bonus tracks, the So Close to What album, which is a great album. She's a Tate girly. I saw her in concert earlier this year and she was fabulous. So I do keep up with a lot of her stuff. I've just had a quick listen to some of her tracks this morning, but I feel like I haven't really done a full deep dive. I need to listen to them back again, but that's on my radar right now. Another song, speaking of sort of pop girlies and pop culture, Miss Zara Larsson, who, weird connection, she actually did just finish supporting Tate McRae on her American leg of her tour. Has anyone been seeing that video on TikTok that's going really viral? And she does this bit in her show, I guess, when she's on tour, where she brings on like a fan to the stage to do this dance, this like choreo that she has to the Lush Life song. And there was this girl, I think it was in like Denmark or Amsterdam or somewhere, and her name was Julia, and she was obviously Zara's fan. And she comes onto the stage and she's just like probably a teenager. She looks maybe like 18 or something, and she just kills this dance. She's like swinging her arms around, and Zara Larsson is like completely gagged. She's like, "Oh, slay queen." And I have been watching that video on repeat. It just gives me so much serotonin. I'm living for it. And so I've been on a bit of a Zara Larsson algorithm since that. And I'm really, really obsessed with that song of hers called Midnight Sun. Oh, it's so catchy. I actually really need to get around to listening to her full album, because Miss Zara Larsson has been around. Like, gal has been around. And for some reason, she's having this like resurgence where I feel like maybe Gen Zers or younger people are discovering her for the first time. But like, I knew her from Lush Life. I knew her from that song she had with Tiny Temper back in the day. I know what girls like. Like, she's got vocals and she's a proper pop queen. And I mean, she hails from bloody Sweden, which is like pop capital of the world. So yeah, big fan of Zara Larsson and that Midnight Sun. A never ending midnight sun. That was a terrible rendition, but that is my song of the week for sure. And it's given me like summer vibes. It's keeping me alive during these winter months. And that's what you need in the winter. You need like high energy pop music to keep you going through the struggles, you know? Miss Demi Lovato started that off strong when she brought out her album with some like dance club bangers. And I feel like Zara Larsson is following suit. So turns across the board to you, Miss Zara. And then just to round off our little pop girly section, I was thrilled to see earlier this week that Miss Lily Allen has finally added on more dates to her tour, the West End Girl Tour, which, oh, I was so devastated a few weeks ago. I think I mentioned it on a previous pod episode. I was just, with all the new job and everything going on, I have just been so all over the shop with like my scheduling, my life and my calendar and remembering to do things. And I literally forgot to get in the queue to get tickets for a first round of dates. And I was so annoyed at myself. I thought, bitch, you love that album. The West End Girl album is so good. And I'm desperate to see it live, because I haven't seen Lily Allen live in so many years. I've been lucky to see her once, but it was literally probably like 15 years ago or some shit like that. I think it was when she did the tour for her album It's Not Me, It's You, which, by the way, is one of the greatest pop albums, and it is in my like top 10 favourite ever albums. You might know the song The Fear by Lily Allen. That song comes on that album. A really great listen, would recommend. Next to obviously her most new product, which is West End Girl. So yeah, it's been a really, really long time since I've seen Lily Allen in concert. And if I'm being honest, my memories of that concert was not very significant. I think this might have been during a time where Lily Allen was a little bit all over the shop in the nicest way possible. She's like spoken publicly about this, about how when she used to perform, she used to struggle to basically perform sober. And I literally can remember in this concert, she was like walking around with like a pint of beer or something. And it kind of felt like she was drunk on stage. She was just kind of like floating around. She wasn't giving much, probably because like internally she was so anxious or she had things going on, in fairness to her. So yeah, I don't have like the most amazing memories of that concert. So it would be really awesome to get tickets for this one, considering how good this West End Girl album is. And now that she's in like a very new era of her life, she's grown up a lot, obviously, since the old pop star rock and roll days. So yeah, pray for me, guys. We are going to be in that queue. I will not forget this week. I'm really hoping for a bit of luck this time, because she's actually added on dates to arenas. The first round of dates were in these like small theatres, so to be perfectly honest, the likelihood of anyone getting a ticket for that was so minimal, and that's basically what happened. Like, so many people did not get the tickets. But now she's added on a bunch of new dates in arenas, which is more capacity, so there's like just a minuscule more of chance for me to get a ticket. So pray to the gods this week. Maybe on next week's pod, I hope I'll be reporting good news to you all. If anyone's going to the Lily Allen tour or is getting tickets, let me know in the comments. I'll be aiming to go to the Manchester one. Maybe we can be little concert friends. That'll be fabulous. Because at the minute, I don't really know anyone in my life here that's going, so I'm just going by myself and we're going to see what happens. And you know what? This does kind of nicely tangent into my topic of today's podcast, which is all to do mainly with just solo traveling and doing things solo. I've been wanting to do an episode about this for a while, and it's something that I've spoken about so many times in my life with people, strangers online, people in my family, friends, colleagues. Like, it's a topic that I feel a lot of people can probably relate to, and that's finding sort of the strength almost to do things by yourself. And for some bizarre reason, in the world we live in today, it kind of makes me sad, but I feel like people really struggle with it. And I have had a lot of my own life experience going through this journey myself, so I just thought it would be nice to kind of talk about that topic today, share some thoughts and feelings, have a little yap. And I would love to know, obviously, if you've gone through similar things, if you're maybe in a phase of your life where you're thinking, I really want to go do things, but I'm scared to do it on my own. Like, let's get into it, girlies. Let's get into it. So speaking of the festive season, we've got obviously Christmas coming up soon. I've got myself a nice little 2 weeks off work, which I'm very happy about. And this last week, I did book myself a little solo trip to Gdansk in Poland. I've been to Krakow in Poland earlier this year and I really enjoyed it. It's actually very cheap for British people when you go over to Poland because the currency is like crazy good. So that was kind of low-key the appeal to go on a trip there, mainly because travel be bloody expensive these days. So I was trying to find somewhere that's semi-affordable, but also like kind of festive vibes, you know? I'm going over like New Year's Eve, which will be really cool. And I'll have like cute little Christmas trees. And yeah, I'm a big fan of doing like a little city break over the Christmas time. It's nice to get sometimes out of the slump of just sitting on your sofa for 2 weeks, not doing anything but eating beige party food. So yeah, I'm going to Gdansk in Poland. We'll do a whole review and an episode on that, I'm sure. But this trip is not the first time that I've done a solo trip, and I've done many in my time. And I thought, let's talk about them. Let's get into some story times. The first time that I technically solo travelled, which, by the way, side tangent, you know she loves a side tangent here. You may remember a few episodes ago, I did a full deep dive on my experiences and low-key my failures and disasters doing a Camp America for the summer, like a summer camp experience. That was technically my first ever time actually travelling solo, going on a plane, without my parents and family, right? This last weekend when my parents have just come up, we got some goods! I literally am so gagged. I didn't even know that I had these in possession. My parents did a bit of an attic clear out a few weeks ago, found some of my old stuff. I thought this would be fun to show. For the listeners who may not be watching on the video, I'll try and describe as best as I can. But if you want to see it on video, go to YouTube, open up the Spotify player. You can see this all on video. But the camp that I was speaking about, the camp that I went to go work in for all of 1 week, I got some goods. I don't remember even possessing these, so this is a blast from the past. So in this zip bag, we've got the saddest, dustiest little hat. And I am going to, show the name of the camp because what's going to happen? It is what it is. The camp still exists. I don't work for them. It's whatever. But it was called Camp Matoka. This actually, like, low-key is kind of a cute hat, but it's all really sad and flat. And it's very dirty. See how dirty that is? It's got like brown and dust all over it because this has been living in an attic for like 10 years. So I might actually give this a wash and see if it's wearable. But There it is. She went to Maine, Camp Matoka. Such a classic. That sounds like such a camp name, doesn't it? That you'd hear in a movie. And then I also must have had this. I don't even know what you call this. They have these a lot in America. They're like sports teams have them. Like these sort of long triangle shaped flag type things. So I had a one of those too. And then obviously the bag. So I was cracking up when I saw those. I thought, oh my God, what are the chances? Literally not long ago, just did a whole episode on that experience. And here she is with the physical reminders of what I clearly got from that time, even though I had no memory of having those. Anyway, sorry, that was a real side tangent, but I felt like I wanted to show that. And it does kind of like loop back into my whole thing about solo traveling. So yeah, Camp Matoka in Maine, America. That was the first time I actually did go solo traveling. My first time on a plane. I did technically meet someone at the airport who was also going to the camp who did probably greatly guide me and help me to achieve my travels because I was bloody useless that day. But that really was my first time venturing out to the world, and I would have been about 20 years old back then. Up until that point, all my other travels had always been with other people. It was either with friends or with family. And so the concept of going somewhere by myself, probably until that point in life, didn't even feel like that's something I would do. So I feel like the Camp America was more of like a taster because truthfully, I still wasn't on my own at that point. I was still traveling around with groups of girls. Although I didn't know them, actually physically having someone there and essentially someone to fall back on didn't really give me that much responsibility or understanding of what it was like to travel by myself. So fast forward a few years, that was back in 2014, the Camp America. And then in that time, we'd had a bit of a reshift in life. It was back to the adult world, back to working jobs. I moved back to Cardiff with my flatmate Liam. And I think this was the point in life where I was starting to feel a bit more independence in myself as a grown adult. And I just really had a bug for wanting to go travelling. And it was one of those things where, like, at that point in life, I just don't know whether it was just a change of friends and friend groups and people just busy doing their own thing. Maybe people just didn't have the money as much. But I was finding myself struggling to want to do the travel plans I wanted to do and find people to commit or to come on holidays with me. And to be perfectly honest, I think I just reached a point where I thought, I'm kind of bored of waiting to see if someone can commit to a plan. You know what it's like? It's like when you try and take something out of the group chat and make it happen. It takes like 10,000 years for it to happen. And I just had a bit of a moment where I was like, no, like I feel like I'm just wasting life here. Like I'm wasting precious time. This was a time where I actually probably had a bit more money to hand because the cost of living wasn't so damn much back then. And I was probably doing okay salary-wise versus what my outgoings were. And because I was sharing bills with a flatmate at the time, I did have a bit more money, and also travel was nowhere near as expensive as it is now. I just felt like there were prime opportunities to take there, and that's basically what I did. I can't say that there was ever a moment in my brain where I ever felt scared. I don't know if that's just something I was born with, or whether I've gained that confidence in travel from having travelled so much with family and friends throughout my younger years. So perhaps there's more of a familiarity to travel environments. Like, I don't know, I just really never felt any qualms about taking myself somewhere. I wish I could pinpoint where that comes from, because this is a talking point that I hear a lot from other people. Over the years, whenever I've had discussions with anyone that I've been on holidays on my own and I've done X, Y, and Z, I can't tell you the amount of responses I have received where people are flabbergasted. They are perplexed and really quite shocked that I would do something like that on my own. And not even necessarily they don't mean it in a negative way, but I think a lot of people really find that very hard. And that isn't just traveling. Don't get me wrong, traveling can be, a stressful thing sometimes. And some people don't deal well in those environments, in airports and on planes and all the rest of it. But even just basic social outings. I think even before I decided to travel alone and go on holidays, I'm pretty sure I was still doing things locally at that time. I had no qualms taking myself to the cinema. I still do that to this day. Popping over to a coffee shop, walking around town, running errands. I just don't know if it's just an independence thing that I feel like I've always had within me, but I've become very used to doing that. Maybe it's because I'm a bit of a determined individual and I don't like the thoughts and feelings of someone maybe stopping my path or stopping me from achieving something. A big part of me actually thinks, sorry, trigger warning, mental health and suicide. If you'd listened back to a few episodes ago, I did a uni episode and I did share my story about how I really struggled with my mental health when I was 18. And I had a massive mental breakdown to the point of trying to commit suicide. And I really think my life drastically turned around from that point in a positive way. I think when you probably go through something so deeply traumatic at a young age, it obviously gives you a very different perspective on how you view life going forward. And I think that's really what it was for me. I obviously had the experience that, you know what, life can be very short. And I experienced something very real and very traumatic that nearly led me to that point. And I think when I was feeling grateful and lucky and healing from that experience, it just kind of gave me this new perspective in life that, like, oh, okay, like, I'm taking it quite seriously now. I really don't want to waste any of my time in this life because, like, I've been through probably the worst thing that you could go through at that point. I sort of know what it's like to feel that life is precious, if you know what I'm saying. So I think maybe that was also a really big driver in not wanting to waste time. I feel that in me a lot. Even to this day, I don't like the thought and the feelings of wasting precious time on this earth, because the quote of life is short, you know, we all hear that a lot, but I really deeply feel that all the time in life. And I think it massively drives my decisions and my ambitions to want to achieve things because I know how fragile life can be. And maybe that's also from just personal experiences that you see around you. Like, you know, you see in the news, like, people can die really young. I know that's like really morbid to say, but maybe it's just like an active thought that has always been in the back of my head, which is why I want to feel like I'm doing something with my life. You know what I mean? I want to feel like I'm achieving something with my time and enjoying my youth and my experiences whilst I can. So yeah, I don't know, maybe that was like always a big driver for me because of what I went through at a very young age, and it just shaped me differently. But I can't say I'm not grateful for that because I'm glad that I've pushed myself to do this stuff. Because again, I always used to find it kind of sad when people would react that way when I would tell them that I would do stuff on my own. Because I just personally think it's a real tragedy that people don't make use of their time. Like, people will literally stop themselves from doing so many great experiences in life, travels, go see films that you love, go to a nice little restaurant. Like, they'll stop themselves from doing that because they don't have someone to go with. And I just think, why would you restrict yourself in that way? Because you're losing out on an experience there that might bring you a lot of joy. So it's like, I feel like I am such an advocate for doing things solo, but not only for those reasons, to just have a nice life and enjoy the things you want to enjoy, but also because I just think it's really important for, like, your mental health. I think sometimes people can become really codependent and reliant on other people to do everything with. And if I'm being honest, I feel like that can take a certain path and it can chip away at your confidence, you know, because then you become used to having like something attached to you at all times. And I think it's really good to just give yourself a balance. Like, of course, it's great to have a partner by your side or friends and people to make memories with. But if you're only ever going to rely on those people to create them with, then I just feel like you're robbing yourself of your own valuable experiences, you know? There's such a beauty in experiencing these things by yourself because I feel like you become so much more present with what's around you, what you're doing, what you're seeing. You don't have necessarily distractions or the noise of other people or the worries or the anxieties of looking after someone else or whatever to sort of take away from that experience. And I feel like personally I've taken so much positives from doing that a lot in my life that it kind of makes me sad that people haven't done that either. Like, I sound like the bloody girl in Mean Girls who's like, I just want us all to bake a cake made of rainbows and we can all be happy. Like, that's literally how I feel. I want you all to experience joy. I want you all to experience like just a presence in what you're doing. Look out at the world in front of you. Look at what's possible. Like, God, I feel like I'm literally on a TED talk right now, but I really do feel very passionate about it because I just think life is so short. There's so much to see in the world and there's probably so much we'll never see in this lifetime. But like, if you can and you've got the opportunity and if you're lucky that you've got a little bit of money or resource that you can do that, then don't waste the opportunity just because you're fearful of doing it by yourself. And I do wonder, what is it that brings people to these points where they don't feel able? It's something that I feel like I can't relate to. So it's like, I would love to know the psyche. Is it like an anxiety thing? Is it just people with certain brain chemicals who are built that way and they're worrisome? Like, maybe I don't know if I've ever possessed that much worry and anxiety, you know? Don't get me wrong, I have my worries and I overthink lots of things sometimes. But this is one area of life that I feel like I've never been more sure of. It's just maybe like my abilities in getting shit done. So it's almost like, is it a self-esteem thing? Is it like people worry that they're going to fail at something? I guess sometimes maybe it's a safety thing, which is very valid actually, especially being a young woman. I know that's like a really big thought consideration for girls who want to go solo traveling. And it's about making sure that maybe the country you're going to is safe for a woman. Which honestly, don't get me wrong, I have absolutely had those thoughts too when considering where I want to go. And there's definitely probably moments where I thought, I don't know if I'd want to go there on my own. Like, you know, sometimes there's certain countries you can go to where the culture of men sort of ogling at young girls is very rife. Like, I have experienced that in certain places, and I can imagine that can feel really scary to do that solo. So there's absolutely very valid reasons as to why someone would be scared to do it, but I don't think that should put you off entirely because there's loads of really safe places too. The first time I actually went on my first real solo holiday, like fully by myself, no one with me, was to Mallorca in Spain. I went to Palma, Mallorca, and this was back in 2016. So like I said, I did the Camp America, I'd moved back to Cardiff, it had been like 2 years or so. I probably had done some travel in that time. I think maybe me and Leah went to Amsterdam, actually. And then there was just a bit of a period of time where I don't think nothing was planned. I don't know what the reasons were. There was just various reasons why trips weren't happening. And I just got to a point where I thought, I want to go traveling. I want to do stuff now. And I don't really want to wait for anyone anymore. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I love me a little relaxing. That's another thing. It's actually just more so for my sanity sometimes and just needing the calm and relaxation of not talking to anyone like nearly all week and just being quiet, reading a book, listening to music, sunbathing. Like, I can't express how much peace and joy that brings me, that type of holiday. Especially in just the modern world that we live in. Everything's so go, go, go. Work's stressful, life is stressful. And so I'd make it such a mission of mine to ensure that I can fit in at least like one of those holidays a year, preferably on my own, to be perfectly honest, because I find it more relaxing. And Mallorca and Spain just always ticks the box of that because it's just an easy destination. It's a 2-hour flight away. It's familiar if you've ever grown up holiday in Spain, which I feel like a lot of Brits have. The Brits do love going to Spain. It makes logical sense why we love it so much. You get the nice hot weather, it's semi-affordable, and it's 2 hours on a plane, so you can't go too wrong. So I felt like, do you know what? If I'm going to start off doing a solo trip, let me go somewhere that feels quite familiar, so it's not too much of a big dive, so I don't get too overwhelmed. I'm familiar with sort of the culture in Spain and what you can access and what's around. I can speak a few basic terms, so it won't be too scary. And you know what? We'll just get a nice little package holiday. We'll get some food included to take out the stress of any potential issues with restaurants and food. And that really would be my personal top tip to anyone who's looking to start off doing a solo trip. If you want to go somewhere sunny like a beach, go to Spain and just book yourself like a half-board package. Maybe you want an all-inclusive, maybe you're that type of gal. I wasn't personally asked about all-inclusive because I feel like after a while the food gets a bit boring. But if you just get yourself a nice, easy little holiday package, it's all nice and done for you. You don't have to have the added stress of worrying about how to get there. Oftentimes, you've got like a coach trip that's included as like a transfer to get you to your hotel, like straight drop you at the door. Flights all included in it. Your breakfast and your tea, happy days. And that for me felt like a nice option because I didn't have to worry about any potential hiccups or also any potential worries that I might have had about going to a restaurant on my own. Like, I kind of wanted to dip my toe in first and give myself easier tools to not make it feel so overwhelming potentially. Because obviously I'd never done it by myself. I didn't really know at that time how I was going to fully feel about it until I got there. But I just knew that I wanted to go to a sunny bloody destination and have a little relax and be by a beach and do a bit of exploring, you know. And Spain really does tick the box for that. So off I went. to my little hotel. And oh God, this is the depressing thing about the cost of travel these days. I'm so sorry. We need to get a grip in this country about the cost of flights and holidays because it's so disgusting. That holiday that I went on to Palma, Mallorca in 2016, I had a really nice hotel. It was like a 4-star hotel, perfect location, like a 2-minute walk down to the beach. If you've ever been to Mallorca, there's a place called Playa de Palma, which is a great spot I personally would recommend because it's like right along the beach. You've got like the beach kind of resort town feel to it. And then if you want to go and explore Palma City, which is really nice and pretty, like much more authentic Spanish feel in that place, then you can get a bus or a taxi and it's like 10 minutes up the road. So that's why I picked that location. But I had a really lovely hotel, all my amenities that I would need, off board. I had a breakfast buffet in the morning, a little buffet for tea in the night, really nice room, flight included. And I think even back then, I might have got a taxi or I might have got a bus, I can't remember. But the whole thing cost me about £500. You could never get a deal like that anymore. Nowadays, if I want to do the equivalent, it costs me a minimum of £1,000, which is so disgusting. The £1,000 range for me used to feel like what I would pay for to go to like America. And now we're paying that to go to Europe for a week. Oh, sorry, there's a whole rant I could get into, but it does make me so mad how expensive flights and travel is now. Because I'm so sorry, the product hasn't changed. It literally hasn't changed. It's the exact same thing, and now you're charging me double. So that's a real bummer. But anyway, the glory days were great in 2016. I could get that for £500. And it really was the best £500 I think I ever spent. I had the best time. Oh, it was just so nice. Just having your own schedule for the first time, doing what I wanted to do on my own time, managing my own day as I please. And do you know what? That for me is the biggest pro of solo traveling. It's not being tied down to what other people want to do. And look, you got to compromise in this life when you go on holidays with people, and I get that. And you accept that when you go with a friend or with family. But let's be honest, like I'm sure we've all experienced times where things get a bit touchy and we start bipping at each other. And it can take away from the joy of the holiday sometimes when it's like, I don't want to go down to the beach, but I want to stay at the pool. And blah, blah. It's just challenging. It comes with its challenges. And I can't lie, it was a really nice feeling not having to deal with that for the first time in my life. I was like, oh, this is great. I can do whatever I want when I want, and I'm loving life. And it brings like a whole other level of relaxation to you. Like, if I'm being honest, I feel like the purpose of those holidays, for me personally, is to go and try and decompress, to relax, to just give yourself a little break, a little reward, enjoy a little cocktail by the side of the pool, read a book. Like, I have never felt such genuine peace and relaxation than I have when I went on that holiday. Just like that initial feeling that I felt coming away, I will not forget that holiday because of that reason. And it felt just really symbolic of like a new era that I entered. Of like, hey, this is great. Like, you're actually doing things on your own, which I think you have to pat yourself on the back for sometimes. Because don't get me wrong, whilst on one hand I say, oh, it's really not that difficult. Like, why do people not do it? There is also like a genuine moment of reflection and recognition that like, yeah, do you know what? In some ways, though, it is actually quite a big feat to like take yourself on a plane, fly to another country, get yourself all there in one piece. Because don't get me wrong, travel's got its stresses. But like, it's such a great achievement. And that's what I just recall taking away from that experience. And that was it then. The seed was planted. And from that point onwards, I was ready to go. I was ready to travel. And I came back from that holiday. Within 2 weeks, I booked myself another last minute trip. And this time I was like, do you know what? We've done the beach vibes. Really enjoyed that. I didn't feel much pressure on that type of holiday because it was more of a relaxing environment. I did my brief exploring around Palma City. But this time I thought, maybe I need to do like a city break or an activity or something to see how that fares on your own. So I decided to book myself a little trip to Disneyland Paris. Oh, I was so excited. I just remember this time of life being so exciting because I just had like a spout of travel things coming up, and it was all just really spontaneous and very last minute of me. And I was feeling just so confident in myself of like, yes, look at me go. I could just hop on a plane. Like, I could literally do this by myself. I can't believe I've not done this sooner. And now I'm getting to like enjoy holidays and experience things a lot quicker than I probably would have if I just waited around for people. And I'm not going to lie, there was a slight bit of anxiety going to Disneyland Paris because I thought, well, you're going to have to go on your own on the rides and stuff. Not that I'm scared of rides at all, but I'd never done that before by myself. And I think sometimes it's a very natural feeling. One thing that people feel when they go and do stuff on their own is they worry too much about what others think of them or others may think of them. And I think I probably genuinely had those feelings initially. I used to always think, oh God, what if people see me like going on this ride on my own? Will they think I'm like a loser? Like, oh my gosh, she hasn't got any friends. And where do we find those, where do those feelings come from? Like, is it just something that's ingrained in us from childhood where like maybe kids bully you and make you feel weird if you're a loner? Like, it probably honestly does stem from that. It's kind of something that's often depicted in movies, isn't it? And throughout society that like, if you're on your own, then that means you're a loner. I find that's so sad that almost carries with you into your adulthood when it absolutely should not. But, it's very valid feelings because it's probably ingrained very deep into us. So I think I probably definitely would have had those thoughts to a degree. But I think my travel bug was so active, I just thought, no, I'm still going to do it though. Like, we may as well. And so off she trotted to Disneyland Paris. It was so easy. Oh, this was one of the easiest trips I think I ever took. I was living in Cardiff, and this was back when there was a much better transport system to get to Cardiff Airport. I'm sorry to slag off Cardiff Airport these days, but it's gone down the shitter. There was an airport bus that used to be a 5-minute walk from my house when I used to live down Cardiff Bay. I could hop on that and it would directly take me straight to the door of Cardiff Airport, which was great. Sadly, post-COVID, they just got rid of the bus service, which was shit. But I get off my bus, I walk straight into the terminal. I flew with, back then, it was Flybe, RIB Flybe, that airline doesn't exist anymore. It was a really rapid flight to Paris. I think it was like an hour or something on like one of those smaller planes, which was just hardly anyone on it. I was like, got like 2 seats to myself, loving life. I got off at Charles de Gaulle Airport, which was pretty easy to navigate. I hopped straight on a little Disney Express like transfer coach thing that took me straight to my little Disney hotel. It was just, everything was so seamless. And this is the thing about solo travel specifically that I think people panic about. They panic about the logistics and the travel and like, what if it goes wrong? But like, the truth is, most times it doesn't, touch wood. And if you just plan enough in advance, if you're a decent planner, or you get someone to help you plan it, it's really very simple. I do kind of giggle sometimes, especially when I'm traveling solo. I am such a people watcher. And I do find it very amusing sometimes when I observe other people in airports. And oh my God, how stressed out people get in airports is beyond. And don't get me wrong, I do understand, especially like if you're going as a family and you've got little kids, it can be a lot, right? It can be overwhelming. Sometimes when you go at a peak busy period, like girl, trust me, I've been in fucking Bristol Airport on a bank holiday when there's like thousands of families and kids going out and really regretting my choices and thinking, oh, I should not have flown on this date. So, there's very valid stresses in airports and going through the security and all this crap. But I think if you just think of it mentally differently, you can make it a lot more calmer. And you realise it's actually not that deep. All you've done is you've taken a bag, you've walked through a little scanner, you've got a boarding card on your phone, maybe a physical one. You go bloop bloop, you look at a gate, you step on a plane. It's actually so simple. But for some reason, people lose their minds. I have seen people shouting and screaming at airports, families having like full mental breakdowns, people arguing with gate attendants. I'm just like, guys, it's not that deep. Like, calm down. I think people psych themselves out so much before they've even stepped foot in an airport. And that alone can stop people from going on travels, which I just think is so mad. I'm like, guys, it's going to be okay. I promise. It's like, what's that phrase for like something therapy? It's like exposure therapy. Like, you just have to put yourself in the environment, even if you do find it stressful or you're scared of flying. Like, it's a bit of tough love, but it's like, if you don't do it, you will not get past that barrier. I think that like very much applies to most things in life, not just traveling or traveling solo, but it's just one of those things where you've just got to rip the band-aid off and just dive into it. And then what you often realize is after you've done it one time, it's like, oh, that actually really wasn't very difficult. I actually managed and that was okay. And I'm thankful that I've given myself so many of these experiences now that I don't often feel very stressed or phased if things do go wrong. And don't get me wrong, I had some moments where it's gone wrong. My most recent palaver, where I did feel a little bit stressed, was I was coming back from Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands. I'd never been to Fuerteventura before, so I wasn't familiar with the airport. I know there's a whole thing in Spanish airports where you have to like go through your check-in desk, do the security check, and then sometimes you think you're safe. You think you've done all the things you have to do. But no, alas, Spain makes you go through a full passport check prior to getting to the actual gate, which a lot of people do get stuck on. Oh God, I'm not gonna lie, I've definitely had a few like near misses where I've forgotten about that and realised, oh God, it's a good job I bloody remembered to come this way at this time. Because if there was a huge queue, I probably would have like been a bit tight on time to get on the plane. So having known that knowledge, I thought, okay, we know now that whenever we go to quite a lot of European places, and Spain specifically, don't get lured in to thinking, oh, I'm by the shops now. Oh, there's a McDonald's there, there's a Burger King. Oh, I got loads of time. I'll just sit here and wait. No. So in Fuerteventura, I took myself early. Grabbed myself a little bit of food and I thought, right, I'm going to go now. We're going to head off to the gate. They just announced the gate. This is like a full hour before my gate is due to shut. And just for some reason, the Fuerteventura airport border control, whoever they are, beyond useless. There was so many people in that queue. I saw it from a distance and I thought, oh my God, that is a ginormous queue. And there was about 4 attendants checking passports. I thought, this is going to take forever. Oh my God. But I don't have a choice. I joined the queue. I've given myself enough time. You'd think this would be fine. Oh my God. That queue, it was like being a snail. It was like snail's pace. It was hardly moving. I was looking at the clock thinking, girl, it's my boarding card telling me this gate is closing in like the next hour. Long story short, it's coming up to the hour mark and I'm still in the queue. I've probably got like a quarter left to go at this point, and I can see people around me. Everyone's really stressed. It's mainly just British tourists all losing their minds. I'm trying to catch the attention of the one singular staff member that's like lurking on the edge of the barriers. He's not very helpful. I pull him aside. I'm like, sir, my boarding card's telling me my gate is closing very soon, and there's a very large queue ahead of me. I am very deeply concerned that I'm not going to make this flight. Like, is there any way I can go through an express lane? Like, can you please help me? And he was like, it is fine, don't worry. Wait, why did I just turn that attempted Spanish accent into like a Super Mario Italian? That was not meant to sound like that. I'm not very good at doing Spanish accents. Anyway, this man did not calm my nerves, and this honestly was probably one of the only times that I really felt major stress travelling. And because I was obviously on my own, I don't really have anyone to share this burden with. In the end, I sort of started talking to some of the people in the queue, because there was some other young couple that were also trying to get through to a flight, and I could overhear them saying, why aren't we getting through, and blah, blah. So I sort of started talking to them. I was like, what time's your flight, guys? Blah, blah, blah. The way that like passengers come together in moments of stress does crack me up. But like, oh, we were cutting it fine. I was honestly on the verge of tears at one point, because I have never in my entire life missed a flight. I am very punctual, very on time, and I did everything right up until this point. I just thought, this isn't in my control at this point, and this is what's annoying me. It's like, I've done nothing wrong. You're at fault here, and you're causing me this insane stress that is so unnecessary. And that sometimes can be a challenge when you are solo traveling, because you don't have control of everything. And so you just got to figure out the circumstances in front of you, you know? I thankfully got through, made it onto the plane. Turns out I actually happened to be one of the first bunch that made it on the plane, and we ended up having a really delayed flight because there were so many people on my flight stuck far, far behind me. We were like an hour or 2 late because of the fact that they knew how bad this airport was. The flight was like willing to wait for all the passengers, which obviously wouldn't usually happen, but there were so few people on the plane that they like physically could not take off and leave like 3/4 of the passengers behind, you know? So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there's definitely been like 1 or 2 stressful moments like that, which can sometimes feel a little bit daunting when you're by yourself. But you know what? I think again, once you've go through it and you've experienced it once, you feel quite confident in knowing that like if that ever happens again, you know what to do, you can remain calm, you know yourself, like it's all gonna be fine. And most of the time it is, do you know what I mean? And like super thankfully, those instances have been so minimal, you know? So that's just like another thing I would say. Like if you're looking to solo travel and you're worried about the stresses or the travel woes. Like, most of the time, it really does go absolutely fine. And in the rare occurrence where things go wrong, there's always a resolve. And what I have always found is that the passengers around you and your fellow neighbours on the plane, everyone's got each other's back, especially in airports. Like, when it all goes wrong, it's like a full army. We're all together in this shit, and we all hate the airlines, and we all hate the airports. So you never really feel alone in it anyway. And there's always someone willing to help you if you're stuck. And then, like, in my time, I've, like, helped other fellow passengers who might not be familiar with traveling or the location. They're like, oh, do you know where I get a taxi? And like, oh, my flight got delayed and blah, blah, blah. And like, most of the time, your fellow person helps you out, you know? So at this point in life, I'm feeling pretty confident with Europe. I feel like Europe's kind of similar across the board once you've been enough times. They all have similar infrastructures, similar airports, similar setups. You adapt a bit to the local language, find out some of the local phrases. There's a lot of good transport setups in lots of European cities. Like, I've just done a lot of different types of trips across Europe. So at this point, I feel like very comfortable in those trips. The flights are often similar times. It's not like you're having to go too far. And it's all like relatively straightforward. So once I'd known that I had done a few of those trips under my belt, I was like, do you know what? It's time to go. It's time to get the big guns out. It's time to go to New York, New York, which anyone on the video pod, you will know from the background of my little pod set. I've got 3 beautiful photos in the background here in my flat of New York, New York, Miss Beautiful Manhattan, one of my favourite cities on earth. I love New York City. If you've never been, I would thoroughly recommend that you go one day. It is like something out of the movies. I bloody love it. And I had gone at a very young age on a school trip very briefly to New York, but I did have a pure disaster on that trip. I was like a young 15, 16-year-old. We're with a school group of like 40, 50 kids. You can imagine how chaotic that trip would have been. We're cramming everything into the tiniest amount of time. I do remember that trip just feeling a bit stressful and overwhelming. And I was so deathly ill on that trip. I can recall having a full breakdown in Macy's Superstore, wherever it's called. You know, what do they call it? The department stores. You know how in the UK we've got like Harrods, like fancy department stores with designer things and all the rest of it. Well, in New York, there's a famous shop called Macy's. And they took us there as part of the school trip itinerary. And I was so severely ill. My teachers, no offence, were being really shit and they didn't really help me. I had no medication. We didn't have time to stop and find anywhere. I was such a quiet, shy little kid back then anyway that I probably didn't want to say anything. I was on my bloody period and I was just like hating every moment of my life, especially being like a hormonal young teenage girl. You're dealing with all like your schoolmates and there's just a lot going on. And I couldn't take it anymore. I was with like a bunch of friends. We were walking through Macy's and my throat was in so much agony. I was desperate for a drink. I had no drinks and I was like, I gotta go find somewhere. There was like a McDonald's in the Macy's and I could only find like a giant Diet Coke or something, which was better than nothing. And I just had a moment where I stopped in the middle of this Macy's department store and just had a full cry. My friends at the time were like, oh my God, girl, it's okay. Like trying to hug me. I was like, I'm just so ill and I'm so jet lagged and tired and I just need medication. I need water. I need throat soothers and I don't have anything and I just want my mum. And like the teachers were nowhere around us at this time. So the teachers were no help. So, oh my God, I was just, that I don't like have like the most incredible memories from that first trip. I remember some fun stuff, but it was just a real blur. So I was determined in life that I really wanted to go back properly as a more grown adult and actually doing it solo. I thought, hey, that could be a really exciting opportunity. I can take myself wherever I bloody want on my own pace and that would be amazing. So that is what she set out to do. So it was 2017 now. I've already got a few little Europe trips under my belt in 2016. And then 2017 was like, right, we're just going to go for it. I think at the time there was like a last minute Christmas sale on with one of the airlines and I found a really good deal. Again, it was like a holiday package. It had like premium economy flights, which, felt a bit bougie. A really nice hotel in central Manhattan. And the whole thing, honest to God, was like £1,200, which again, you would never get that these days, which makes me so sad. Like that's literally what it would cost now to go to Europe. But back then, I could have 5 days in New York City flying across the damn ocean for that cost. And oh, girl, was she excited. I actually did make, if I can find it, I'll either put like a little clip here on the screen and I'll definitely link it in the bio. But this was back in my little era where I was feeling excited by creating videos on YouTube and creating little travel edits. And I have a video of my first trip and my subsequent trips to New York City. And I take so much joy in those memories. I had such an amazing time. And from that is why I have these photos on the back of my wall, because it imprinted a memory on me that I will never forget of just like, wow, this is like major. Like, this is a cool city and I'm doing it all by myself. And this is amazing. And I'm flying across the world. And I don't know, man, it was just a really memorable trip. And I just remember so much excitement and joy from also just being there, that it just holds a very dear, happy place in my heart. And if I had the money, every damn year I would go back to New York City. But alas, it is too bloody expensive. And then side note to that, I don't want to enter the United States of America whilst Mr. Donald Trump, say his name that way, is in charge. Because I don't want to get like kidnapped or anything to happen to me, because I've got very strong views against Donald Trump. I feel like he would probably pull me aside and deport me or something, because that's what he seems to do these days. So very sadly, we are on a big pause from America, which makes me deeply sad because I love New York and I miss it so much. I haven't been since 2019. I'm just like, oh, take me back. So I just have to keep staring at my photos and just pretend I'm there. But yeah, I went quite a few times to New York. My first time was 2017. I went again in 2018, and this time I was like, I'm going to take my parents with me. Like, let's go together. I want them to experience what I experienced, and we had a really nice time. And then I chose again to go in 2019. This was before the pandemic anyway. All the travel came to a halt. So kind of got in at the right time, just before it all stopped. And you know what? The last time I went actually in 2019 was also one of my favourite travel experiences ever, because it was the first time in life that I had experienced flying business class. Oh, girlies. Oh, girlies. Let me tell you in this lifetime, okay? Let me tell you. If there's one thing you ever want to experience, especially if you're into travel, save up those pennies, more so save up those air miles, those air mile reward points, and upgrade yourself just one time to business class with a lie flat bed. Oh, you'll never want to experience anything different ever again. I am such an aviation travel nerd anyway, so maybe I'm just a bit more sad about it. But like, oh, it's just such an amazing experience. It's like, you can't describe it. If you've obviously gone many years in your life just being a little economy bitch at the back, squished your legs in, you're squished in a row of three, there's obviously just, an elevated feeling to being in your own little pod. You've got a lie flat bed, like, oh, girl, it is the life for me. And this one was so special because not only was it my first time, but I got upgraded for free. For free! Now, to this day, I still don't know if my cheeky little brother was the cause of this. He claims he's not. I think I believe him, because my brother, fun fact, he is a pilot. And at this time, he was working for British Airways, which is obviously a flagship airline in the UK. And I've flown with British Airways many a time in my lifetime. And you generally go with them when you go long haul. So I booked this package holiday again to New York with BA. My brother wasn't like flying the plane or anything. So a part of me was like, oh, did he like put a word in? Is that even possible? Did he upgrade me? But according to him, not possible, wasn't him. So I'll have to believe that. But I can remember it like it was yesterday. I had booked myself in like a premium economy seat. That was what I'd paid for myself. I turn up, all my usual travel like I've done before. I'm at Heathrow Terminal 5. I'm waiting at the gate. I've got my boarding card ready. I'm a little bit of an early bird. I am one of those people that likes to go kind of early into the queue, just because I like to feel settled. Sometimes if I've got a bag, I want to make sure I nab my little overhead bag space. I'm just one of those people. And so I rock up to the gate, I hand over my boarding card, and I see the man scan it, and it goes, like red. And I thought, oh my God, that's not a good sign. Like, oh my God, something wrong with my ticket. He's going to deny me on the plane. I'm not going to get to New York. And I was like quite concerned at this point. And he was looking really perplexed. He was like, what's going on here? He was like, sorry, madam, just give me one moment. So I was like, okay. And then he just didn't say anything for like a really elongated time. And I thought, why are you not saying anything? He looks concerned. Is there something wrong with my ticket? Have I been scammed? Oh my God. And then as cool as a cucumber, he just pulls down under his little desk. So I'm looking down and he's bent down then and he's printed off a ticket. He puts it back in my passport. He hands it back to me really nonchalant and just says really quite quietly and very discreetly, and he just goes, so you have actually been upgraded to this flight, Megan. Have a marvellous flight, I said. And I was trying to be so cool in this moment because I thought, oh, let me not freak out in this queue and like look like a knob and they take away that opportunity from me and like demote me back to premium economy. And I just went, oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Took my passport and my card, just walked off, and I was, oh my God, internally screaming. I was like, he's just upgraded me for free to business class. My first ever time. I didn't say nothing. I didn't ask for nothing. He just handed me the business class ticket. I lost my mind. Immediately, I'm like, I think back then we used Snapchat a bit more or Insta stories, and I was like, straight took a picture of myself, like with the passport and the ticket in my hand. I messaged my mum. I think I messaged my brother, like, did you just upgrade me? Like, are you the reason? Like, why did that? I'm just like, I'm perplexed. I am perplexed. That has never happened to me in my life. Hasn't happened since either. And he was like, no, like, I absolutely did not. Like, nothing to do with me. Sorry. Like, I don't have the power to do that. And then I did a little bit of research after. It turns out, I think actually this can be quite a common thing. When you fly with an airline a few times, they do have like a loyalty program, which is what I'm a part of anyway, which is where you get like air miles and you can use those air miles to pay for flights and things like that. And when you get to like a certain tier, you kind of have benefits being on like a higher tier of the membership, if that makes sense. And at the time, I don't know how I managed it, but I wrangled myself to like a fairly high position in the membership scheme. And because I was traveling solo, these were factors that I think massively increased my chances of being someone to receive a free upgrade. So what often happens on airlines, I just know this from having worked in an airline myself and just experienced in traveling, airlines often oversell their flights. There'll be, say, 300 seats on a plane, but they'll sell, like, say, 340 tickets, because more often than not, there is a percentage of passengers that will not make it, or they don't turn up for various reasons. So sometimes they'll oversell certain tickets or certain cabins, and then when that happens on the day, and then perhaps there is more than they expected, they will sort of move people around cabins. There's often quite a few empty seats in business class because, respectfully, most people can't bloody afford to pay outright for it. So when that happens, and then you've got, say, a smaller cabin, which is the premium economy seats that might be getting a bit overfilled, they will move people around. And then they base those decisions quite often on if you are a loyalty scheme member to the airline. Are you travelling solo? Because obviously a solo traveller is ultimately easier for them because it's only one person to move as opposed to moving like a family of four. So I just think the stars aligned for me that day. It was a busy flight because the New York route obviously is a very popular route. London to New York is there's loads of flights that day that travel to New York because it's a huge metropolitan city, isn't it? Like, loads of people travel to New York. Lots of business people travel to New York. And so the stars just aligned for me that day. I think it was a very overbooked flight, and I happened to have like a higher status at that time. And so clearly that ticked the box, and they said, girlie, you are the choice today. And woo, let me tell you, I was thrilled. I felt so out of place though when I rocked up on that plane. I had obviously never been on a business class seat before. Didn't really know how to like operate it or where the buttons were. I'm trying to figure out where the hell I go. I like put my bag up above me. I get in the seat. I'm just like absolutely screaming to myself, just like, look at all this space. I have a giant seat and like no one around me. This is incredible. And the cabin crew are obviously being very, attentive, and they bring you over a hot towel and they're like, oh, welcome, Miss Jones. Welcome. And I'm just like, this is next level. I'm not a peasant in economy right now. But I'm not gonna lie, I was struggling to figure out how to get the TV screen to pop out. It was one of these like TVs that was sort of like tucked into the side and you had to press this button for it to pop out. Not like a standard, the screen's in front of your face or whatever. And this man next to me, bless him, he was clearly a frequent business flyer. He looked like a businessman. He was like wearing a suit and he could see me struggling, bless, and he was like, it's just that button over there. I was like, thank you, sir, thank you. I was like, I don't belong here. I'm poor. I'm a peasant. Like, I don't belong here. It was like major imposter syndrome of like, this doesn't happen to people like me. What do you mean I get to live in the life of luxury right now for the next 8 hours? Best believe I made the most of every second. I did not sleep. I mean, to be honest, I can't sleep on planes anyway. I've never been able to. But I was like, girl, I'm going to enjoy my fancy meal that's being brought to me on ceramic plates. It's not in no plastic box no more. I've got glass with ice, not a plastic cup, not a shitty bottle, not a can. I've been given little nibbles and aperitifs and cocktails. I was like, this is the high life for me. And then I pressed that button that made my seat go all the way back, and I thought, I have never been on a plane where I've been able to look up at the ceiling and I'm lying. I was gagged. I could talk all day about this experience because it brought me so much joy. And I was so sad when I had to get off the plane. I thought, no, I want the flight to be longer. 8 hours is not enough. And then, of course, on the way back, I sadly did not get that upgrade. I was back to my premium economy, which, don't get me wrong, was grateful for my extra legroom, but oh, the come down is real. The come down is so real once you've experienced that once and you think, no, I want to be rich. I want to fly business class all the time. And I can't lie, that day, that unlocked in me an entire passion and enthusiasm for air miles and for collecting air miles so that I could then use those in future to try and upgrade myself. And I have done that since once or twice. It's not very common. Sometimes you have to be reliable on the availability, but hot top tip for any travellers out there, especially if you're a solo traveller, get yourself signed up to some sort of loyalty scheme. Pick an airline and be dedicated to it. Fly with them, earn the miles. You can do things where you like do online shopping and you spend online for just everyday things you would do anyway, and you earn air miles every time you spend. So it's like 1 air mile for every pound you spend. I can't tell you how valuable those have been for me on long haul flights. Like, I often save up my air miles for those trips because, to be fair, I don't actually travel long haul very often because it is quite expensive. But whenever I have always tried to utilise my air miles, and I've done business class upgrades through that way because I certainly could not be affording it if I was just paying cash because it's far too expensive. But yeah, that was a time and that was an experience. So it's fair to say that I've had a lot of positive solo travel experiences. Don't get me wrong, there are cons, okay? And there are valid reasons to why someone might be scared to do it. It can feel scary sometimes being on your own and having to navigate and be responsible for everything. Yeah, that is kind of overwhelming. And you do kind of miss the ease of being able to fall back on other people, especially during stressful times. But you know what? I think it's #growth. It makes you realise you have to do stuff for yourself, and it makes you learn that actually in all areas of life, if things like that happen, then actually you're going to be okay because you're able to manage those stuff. I think the other con for me, which I realised over the last few years, and maybe this is linked to just the cost of living and how expensive travel is these days, but it does kind of make me mad how much more you do often have to pay to be a solo traveller. Some of these damn hotels do kind of rip you off because they essentially will charge you the same as a solo traveller that like a couple would pay for a 2-person in a room situation. And that shit pisses me off because I think, I'm so sorry, like, I know it's the same type of room, but I can't help that I'm on my own and I shouldn't have to be paying for 2 people when there's only one of me. Like, I'm not using any more resources than those 2 people, respectfully. And also, I'm personally quite happy to have a single bed and a smaller room if that's what you would desire. Like, I just don't really understand how they justify the increased price for a solo traveller. I think it's quite unfair. And I do think that there should be more solo pricing options because ultimately, when you go on holidays with someone or you share a room with a friend or a partner, like when you split that cost, it is so much cheaper. So that, I will say, is the slight downside that I have found over the years of solo travelling, is just purely the cost sometimes. But I guess for me personally, I've always found that a cost worth paying because the pros outweigh that con, you know? As I sort of mentioned earlier on in the episode, my pros really is that it's just nice to have your own schedule with no compromises. Being able to explore whatever you want to do at your own pace is really nice. Not having to sort of wait for people or miss out on any potential life experiences or trips and just like doing it, going and doing it is a great feeling. And I think it's just like a nice knowing feeling that I haven't wasted precious opportunities in my life. I've had great experiences. I've had fun travels. And like me as a person, I've grown from that as well. Like I've found myself really capable and able to deal with any stresses a lot better than probably I would have when I was younger. Feeling like you're not having to be reliant on someone is a really nice feeling, I think. Makes you just feel stronger and more independent. And I'm all for that life. And yeah, that's kind of just my thoughts in a nutshell there of doing solo trips. And not just trips. Obviously, I know I didn't touch on it much in terms of other life experiences, but even just taking yourself out for a solo date. I just think more people should do it. And I urge you greatly to take this as your sign to go and do something alone. Test yourself. It's really not that bad. Whatever anxieties you think you feel or whatever worries you think may happen or not happen, you are overthinking it. Just take the trip. Do the thing, you know? Because I feel like you will gain so much from it. And whenever someone looks at you like you've got 3 heads, like you're a weirdo for doing it, respectfully, just remember that that says more about that person than it does about you. I don't need your projections on me because you're not willing to push yourself any further than your comfort zone, you know? No. We're not about that life here in Yap City. We are about pushing the comfort zone, getting outside the box, experiencing life, and trying new things. And even if you don't love it, or it's not your desired outcome, and yet, you know what? Sometimes some trips aren't that exciting. Maybe you just don't like the location. Maybe you didn't enjoy a certain holiday. That comes with it too. But like, you tried, and you went and you did it. And that in itself is a life experience to take away, you know? It's a story to tell. It's a memory in your head. And what more can you want in this lifetime? So yeah, I look very much forward to my little solo trip over the New Year period, going to Poland. We're going to see some fireworks. We're going to have some lovely Polish food, some pierogi. I can't bloody wait. So book that flight, girlies. Book that flight and chat to me in the comments if you have ever taken some solo trips. Are you on my level here, girlies? Have you been somewhere? Have you come away and thought, that was amazing? Have you maybe had the experience of both and thought, I see the differences here. I see the benefits. And by the way, I do just want to end this actually. I do want to actually make quite clear. I know I'm like yapping on a lot about like, take the trip, do things solo. But I do also want to make clear that I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy my trips with other people too that I have in my lifetime. I love a family trip. I love the other side that you get from those type of trips. The beautiful memories that you can create with other people. I'm not like averse to having trips with other people is what I just want to get across. But I just can't advocate enough to maybe just get a balance of your life of doing both, you know? Don't ever stop yourself from doing something just because it might be on your own, because you'll often find that it can be just as good, if not better sometimes, not having to rely on someone else to do it with. And it's a great boost for your confidence. It gets you out into the world. You don't miss out on opportunities. And I just wish that more people had the confidence within themselves to just go for it, because I find it so sad the amount of people that I have spoken to in life who really can't fathom the thought of doing that. And I just think, but why? Why don't think that way? Like, you're really restricting yourself and you're stopping yourself from enjoying something that you know you want to do, you know? So I'm out here trying to advocate for the people, you know? Live your life, do what you want to do. And on that note, I've yapped on enough, so thank you for joining me again on episode 7 of The Weekly Wigz. If you've got any fun topics of conversation or things you'd love to hear going forward, please throw me some suggestions in the comments. Do make sure to drop the channels a like, a follow, a subscribe. It really does help me and really supports me greatly. And please do share out to your family and friends or anyone you think would be interested in listening to a new podcast. Come join the Yap City crew. I promise we have a lot of fun here. So on that note, have a marvellous rest of your week, gang. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye!